This is our podcast, our very first episode, The Spectrum That Connects Us.
We are so excited. This has been a long time in the works, and here we are.
Yep. We're just two moms that made a connection. Both of our sons are on the autism spectrum, and they were in a center-based school together last year. And through their school, we were part of what they call the family association, and we met and instantly bonded over our boys, and also just two moms like that really just forged a connection like very quickly. And so since then, we've shared a lot of ideas with each other of what we could do, to kind of give a sense of like ourselves to the community, kind of like share something with our boys and with other people that are in the same situations as us. So we thought about like, big dreams we had. Like we said, like,
sensory gym.
Yeah, like let's open a sensory gym. Let's do a sensory library or a playground or all these things that would take a lot of planning and b a lot of money and resources. So then one day Heather just sent me a text and she was like, "How about we like try our turn at a podcast?" And I was like, "Wow, that's a really good idea, like we don't need a lot of money to start it up. We don't even need to plan that much. So here we are. And we're really excited to share with everybody. Share our stories, share our boy stories, and just forge connections throughout the community. Because we've really found our connection to be so helpful and so uplifting, and we want to share that with as many people as possible. So welcome. We hope that people tune in to listen, and that you find comfort here, because we want people to come as they are, and we want people to share with us as we share with you. We're on this journey. We're sort of at the beginning of the journey. I feel our boys are both on the younger side, but we would like to hear from people just all along this journey that we're on together. Like, young adults who may be autistic themselves, or caregivers that have children that are older, anybody where they are. Like, we just really want to share with each other, and because the sharing of the stories with each other, it's really just helpful to like know somebody else is where we are.
Yeah, I mean, just to give you guys some insight, we're located in New York, but part of our inspiration for this was taking our family association experience and kind of eliminating boundaries. So whether you're in the same state or across the country, we are hoping to kind of emulate that feeling of community. And what Fallon just said in terms of like meeting people at all different points in the spectrum, or in their experience with the spectrum, to give a little bit of specific info. My son is 5.5, actually almost to the day of this month. And he was diagnosed as autistic a month before his 4th birthday. So he started at a special education preschool without a diagnosis, received a diagnosis shortly before his birthday, so about a month into school. And so doing quick math, my family is about 18 months in on our autism journey. And I have spoken with people who have adult children, young adult children, who have kids that don't have a diagnosis yet. And part of the fun and part of part of my favorite part is meeting people that are at all different points.
Yes.
Fallon mentioned center-based learning, and that really is, so depending on where you are, that could have different names, but it really is just a special education preschool for kids, again, without a specific diagnosis. There's a collection of different diagnoses, and even kids that go in without diagnoses, just for children that have specific needs.
And delays. Because they're young. Right. They're like, it's really 3, 4, maybe a little bit of 5-year-olds. So it would be like a segue from early intervention.
Right.
For most. And so it could be, a child like my son who is on the spectrum, but it could also just be somebody who, has a speech delay, or, isn't playing appropriately, but's been evaluated by a psychologist and deemed like in need of some sort of services.
Right.
So, in piggybacking off of what Heather was talking about, just a little bit about me. Like I said, my name is Fallon. I am a stay-at-home mom. I have two sons. My oldest son, Nicholas, he is 4 3/4. He'll be 5 at the end of August. He is autistic. He received a diagnosis shortly after, like I would say at 2.5 years old, but I kind of was in the mind frame that he was autistic. Like when we were receiving early intervention before his diagnosis, even like we did see a lot of signs of autism, and I was kind of in that mind frame, I would say, definitely since his second birthday, maybe 18 months, somewhere around there. So Nicholas has been receiving services, early intervention, and then through the center-based program, the special education nursery school, since he's 18 months. I had him evaluated, and he started receiving services, speech and play services, and special education, a little ABA after he received his official diagnosis, and then he started at his school that he's still at now. And it's been a journey, definitely. And we'll delve deeper into all of those, like, more, specifics.
Yeah.
But when you're a mom and you envision, like, motherhood a certain way. Especially I did. Like, I always wanted to be a mom. I did have, like, a career, and I was a professional. But always at the top of my list was, like, becoming a mother. And I was fortunate enough to be able to, like, focus on that solely. So when I had Nicholas, I stopped working. And, motherhood was a lot different from the start for me. And then my experiences with it, I like had a little postpartum, and like you can throw in like the pandemic in there. So like a lot of things didn't look the way I thought they would look. And then my child started to appear differently to me than I thought. Like he wasn't doing the things that I thought he should be doing, and I picked up on it right away, and I think I was like truthful with myself. Sometimes that's hard, sometimes you want to just think that they'll grow out of something, or like you're not seeing what you're seeing. But it was what I thought it was, and it's been like it's been a journey, and so Heather and I, we've shared a lot of our stories with each other. We love to like have that person that you can go to and say like, I'm having a bad day because of this, or I'm having a great day because of this, and they can understand, because our bad days and our great days look so different than like what a typical person would think was bad or great. We say it all the time. There's so many like blessings that come along with having a child on the spectrum, and I know that's like difficult to even like wrap your brain around, like me saying it that way, but there is like autism has changed me as a person 100%. Like
absolutely.
I just get to celebrate things in a different way that I never thought I'd be able to, and that's definitely like a real big positive of this whole situation.
I wanted to jump in and just say that one of the things that I think will resonate or land with a wide range of people is like Fallon was saying that her oldest son, Nicholas, is autistic, and then Pierce, my son, is my youngest. So I have a daughter who is typically developing and frankly like precocious and an old soul, and if anything like early for milestones, and so my daughter is turning 10, Pierce is my second, and so it's very parallel experiences. Like you have expectations about what motherhood will be like, then you have your baby and your world is flipped upside down. But then you, like for me, I started to assume that while I acknowledge and respect that every child is different. Like I thought I had motherhood down. I thought I knew like how things were going to unfold. And one thing for sure that affected our experience early on with Pierce is the pandemic. So Pierce was like 15 months when the world shut down. And I think for us, like things may have played out differently. Like he may have gotten diagnosed earlier, but he didn't receive EI because that was shut down for a long time. And then when it did come back, it was remote. And I didn't feel comfortable necessarily putting like a 15 to 20-month-old on a computer for remote services. And frankly, one thing I wanted to touch on is upfront is like I experienced denial, not because I had anything against the idea of my child being different, but because we were in this like isolated bubble, and he is so perfectly Pierce and wonderful. And I agree with Fallon that like I have changed 100%. That's part of what drove us to do this podcast, is the idea of having a voice in this space, sharing our experiences, playing a role of advocate. I mean, obviously that looks different when you're sitting in an IEP meeting and when you're just chatting and connecting with people, but having a voice that can drive change. So feeling like an obligation or a sense of purpose in doing something in our small corner of the world. And I wanted to say up front in this first discussion, something that Fallon and I have talked about is like, we're not going to get it right.
No.
We're going to say things and it's going to flop. We're going to say things wrong.
Because we're not experts.
We're not experts. No. We're just moms. And it always comes, I think the disclaimer up front is we are a place of like acceptance and love. And we really do invite you to come as you are. You know, we dream of having like on-site events for people who are local, and maybe even at some point like larger scale events. But the idea is to come as you are, and just know that this is a truly inclusive space. We are dedicated passionately to inclusion, both for our sons and I think just the broader topic. So we're not going to get it right. Like I know, like we both subscribe to this idea of like not about us without us.
Yes.
So a lot of autistic voices do not want, you know, discussions or things happening without their input, and we hope to have that voice represented on this podcast. I just want to make sure that if we say something that isn't quote unquote right, that it is known that it comes from a place of love, acceptance, advocacy, and that we're doing our best.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. And touching on that, coming from a place of like wanting inclusion for our children and for everybody with, you know, just differences in general. I think when you're a parent like we are of like a child with special needs, it really could feel isolating. And Heather made that like come to mind when she was just talking for me. And really that is another thing that really drove us to do this, because I remember just feeling, I have a big family, I have many friends, but I really, really experienced a feeling of isolation in this, even from my spouse, who's like amazing and wonderful, but as a mother, you go through things just differently than anybody else when it's something that your child's experiencing.
Right.
And so it's scary to feel isolated. You think that you're going to become a mother and like make mom friends, and like just like things will be easy, like you'll be at the playground and your child will just approach another child and like you'll chit chat and like, or you'll start like a little, you know, little daycare or a little nursery school around the corner from your house, and then like those things, they don't happen. Like you don't make the connection.
I think that's a big thing to draw out too, or put a spotlight on, is that the school that our children attended, like we had a 35-minute commute, so it was outside of our community. That in and of itself was like scary for me. So these were families and students coming from all over like a general area, and that's a lot to drop off your newly turned 3-year-old. So I just, I think trying to recreate the group that we had the good fortune of being members of, this family association. Because I know now, like, I know, again, like, center-based learning or special education preschools, they have different names and look differently depending on what region you're in. But I also know that services are in, or access to those types of programs and services are in unprecedented demand, and that not everyone gets placements. So if your child is not in that setting, I think it could feel, because we started off in a general education community preschool, and it wasn't lining up to meet my son's needs. He was 2 years old. We were coming out of the pandemic. So then to have a conversation with your school district that your son needs, or they are offering a program outside of your community, it's just completely overwhelming. I think for me, like, I was overcome with worry at a point. So, and of course I still worry now. It kind of feels and looks different. But I think the idea is whatever school setting your child is in, and whether they have a diagnosis or they don't, and you're worried that it's coming, or you're in denial that it is what it is. This is a forum where, like, all of those voices matter, and we want to connect with wherever you are. I know we said that up front, like, wherever you are on this experience, but, like, there are no parameters or definitions here. I think I said it already in this conversation, but I have changed inherently. So we talk about blessings, but we kind of talk about them as, like, glimmers, like, these little things. And this is kind of profound, like, to have your purpose and identity change so hugely. That's less of a glimmer and more of, like, a profound change. But we experience these little joys, and we've experienced huge life change, and we want to touch on all of that. We want to hear from you guys too, so we're going to really brainstorm ideas to make this like a collaborative dialogue. And I just can't wait. Part of what's my favorite is just listening, like hearing how other people have managed and coped and blossomed. Oh, and the other thing I wanted to say is that we have a larger group of friends from our kids' school. So, Fallon and I are doing this together, and we also have the support of a larger group of friends that we've made from the parent association. So they're important to highlight because they've really shaped this project. I wanted to say one other thing before I forget. In this introductory conversation, my son is an alum of the school now. So he aged out. He participated in our very favorite place for 1 year and a summer. So he got extended services. He was there for basically 12 months. And this year, Pierce is at a general education pre-K program, and he attends with the acronym is a SEEIT. I've come to learn that this is different depending, like, regionally where you are. So it's just a special education itinerant teacher who helps adapt a gen ed classroom to meet my son's needs, and we'll be starting kindergarten.
And that in itself, I think, is really interesting. I have no experience with it. So hearing Heather's experience with it has been really awesome. And I'm sure she'll share a lot more down the line. And it's been really beautiful to see this gen ed school embrace Pierce, and the students embrace him, and really to see inclusion firsthand. So it will be exciting for her to share those moments with everybody, I think. And I think a lot of people will enjoy hearing that. But just to, like, circle back, I don't want anybody to have to go at this alone, basically. And I think everybody feels really alone in the beginning of all this. And so, like, my hope is that our podcast could reach people that do feel alone in this, that may be not ready to share or even, like, join some sort of public forum or support. But this could be done privately. You could just have in your headphones and just listen along. Listen to me share something that might have been hard for me, or I'm gonna laugh a lot too, definitely, because laughing, there's nothing more that I love to do than to laugh, and then to laugh along with friends. And there are such, like, endearing and funny moments along all of this. Like, Heather often is like to me, we really couldn't make this up. Like who does this happen to? Like, so there'll be those moments, and there'll be, there'll be tough
more
moments
tender,
too,
right.
and sweet, but there'll also be emotional moments that we'll share, difficult things that like everybody goes through, that have children that have, special needs.
I think too, like a lot of what we're talking about, it's funny because like it transcends, it's about motherhood, really. Like so many of the topics that I think we've, shared notes on, and it like transcends autism, which is part of like for me the fascination of this connection, but it's through the lens of raising young autistic kids, our discussions and what we share. But it like really is, it transcends special needs and autism because it's so relevant. I mean, it's for our community and for this audience, but I also think what we can offer is what you just said. Like if someone is not ready to connect, but ready to listen, you can put earphones on and go for a walk or
take a ride,
take a car ride, right? And maybe we'll say things that land with you, like right off the bat. When I think back to Pierce starting at his preschool, the special education preschool, I was like struggling with accepting that I was experiencing grief. For me, it felt almost like a betrayal to this child who I just think is the most wonderful little human. I felt like I was betraying him by grieving. It took me time to even accept that I was going through this process of grief, which, I mean, we could talk about and we will talk about. But the idea is like if you're still there, if you're feeling grief or denial or some of these feelings that you don't want to really necessarily talk about, like hopefully us sharing,
it will resonate with you.
Hit a nerve.
And make you not feel like you're strange for feeling this way or abnormal.
Right.
Like we all go through all these emotions because you don't plan life and think you're going to hit these bumps in the road, but they happen. I mean, that is life.
Yeah. And in fact, I think it makes life, at least for where we're at right now, and we're still pretty new to the game, but I think it makes life extraordinarily exciting, right? When to recover from a bump or to recover from like grief or at least a phase of grief, to recover and come out better.
It makes life exciting, like you said.
Yeah.
It also makes it worth it. Like and it makes you a better person.
Yeah,
I can undoubtedly say from this experience so far, I'm
oh my gosh,
like so much of a better person. I'm more compassionate. I'm more empathetic. I'm more understanding. A veil has been lifted from my eyes of the things that people experience and also like the beauty that you receive too sometimes, like so that's like the positive side of it, right? The wonderful like people that I've encountered so far along the way, the people that are gifted with working with people that have special needs, the patience and just there's a lot of really wonderful things that you're exposed to that you would have never encountered otherwise, right? But I wanted to tell one story in this introductory podcast that I think sets the tone for what I would like people to feel down the road when listening to our podcast. So, and this happened at our very first meeting, the first time I ever met Heather. So, a podcast was not even something like a little bubble in our brain, nothing. But we had our first ever parent association meeting, and I felt like excited in the meeting, just meeting other moms that were in the situation, the same or similar situations to me, because everybody's children are different and all our situations are different, but that could understand where I was coming from. And it wasn't just Heather and I, like all the moms in the room. There was like literally we would leave these meetings and we would leave them like on a high because we would feel like it was like almost like a sort of therapy.
Oh my God, it was. It really, I mean, truly
it was
is
wonderful to hear other people like talk about the the milestones that their child is like having, or even to hear like somebody talk about they were so fearful of this, they're struggling with this, like just to share with other people and really understand them and then them understand me. It was really uplifting. So in our first parent association meeting, we were all strangers. Nobody had ever met anybody before, and literally like the women the social workers at our children's school who ran the meeting were like, you know, kind of like herding us out the door because like it was like we couldn't even stop talking to each other. It was like we were just so like, this is amazing to be able to like share like this with people. And so our conversation from in the meeting inside the building, which was the end of January in like New York,
freezing,
we live in New York, we continued it outside of the building in the school parking lot with a few other moms. And you know, one mom, one of our friends, she really opened up to us, and this was a stranger to me an hour ago. She's in the parking lot opening it up to us, sharing, emotional, and we literally like the group hug. We did a group hug. 4 strangers an hour ago are crying, all of us, standing in a parking lot at the end of January in New York, hugging. So this is the kind of bond and connection we formed immediately with each other and with some other women. And that's what we want to bring to people that are going to listen to us. We want to bring that support, and we want to bring that like sharing component. Like, so we hope to like be able to do some lives down the road where people could share their stories with us. I mean, we do have an email which we'll share, and like people could obviously write to us on that, but a live would be really nice where we could interact. And like Heather said, we'd like to maybe host local events for people that are here, you know, in the beginning. I mean, this is
we've got dreams.
Exactly, dreams. But we're starting out here in our little podcast space. And we've just really are excited to be sharing with everybody and to share our friendship and make more friendships and make more connections. And that's really where our name came from, the spectrum that connects us, because it doesn't, you don't, you know, people associate autism with like wanting to be alone and isolated, and it's not that all the time. You know, it could really, you can make some amazing connections because of this diagnosis.
And like, we're going to share some, because we were out, you know, in our community soliciting, in our school community, again, like we both traveled to this school area, but soliciting for a fundraiser, and like even just asking local businesses to support this special education preschool. And we gave little snippets about our boys, who we are. I mean, there was one afternoon where we made connections that if it were not for our shared experience of being autism moms, like we would have lost out. We never would have uncovered these incredible connections. That's part of what we want to share. And I think it's worth noting that like when you connect with someone through the lens of autism, at least in my experience, I mean, it could be really anything, but when you have a shared foundation or foundational experience, like it just amplifies the connection that you can make. So like our friendship, like to me, I feel like when Pierce finished at the boys' school, I felt like I walked away with lifelong friends. We had known each other for like less than a calendar year. I mean, now we're pushing on like a year and change, and Fallon is one of my best friends. So I think what I hope that we can translate remotely or through this platform is fostering like real relationships and connections that transcend time and location. So like whether you are local or you're not local, you're in a different state, like there's something here for you, and we want to have it with you.
And we want to touch upon a lot of things, like some local businesses, maybe some books. Like we share a lot of things with each other. Even just like some social media accounts that we've encountered that have really, you know, like opened our eyes. And so we'll be sharing a lot of information. Like we said, we're not experts, so it's just like things that we come across that
land with us.
Strike a chord with us, and we'll want to share with people. I'm sure like some people may take some of our advice and some people won't. But that's not what this is about. This is really just about sharing and connecting and making people feel like they have support amongst others, because it's there. The support is there. And I know some people don't feel that they have that. So
I also like, it feels like we're raising our kids in a time where there is incredible and remarkable change. So I think also like part of this platform for me is the opportunity to like rally a group of people. Like I think together as a community, you know, with our connections that we make with all of you, that we can make change. I really think, to me, that feels like, I know we've touched on like purpose and like our self-identity throughout this experience, but I think there's real opportunity to like have a voice in this space and make the world more of what we want to see for children with all differences and disabilities. And obviously, again, like this is through the lens of autism, but I think it will land with parents of different, with children with different disabilities or needs. And so this sort of like real fire that's burning, I think, for both of us of advocacy. And they're like some real trailblazers right now. It's just definitely amazing to have the opportunity to watch some of the change that is happening. So I feel hopeful that our boys are being raised in a time that is more inherently inclusive. Maybe that's really rose-colored, but I think looking through rose-colored lenses, but I'm hopeful.
You're allowed to. You're allowed to if you want to, right? I mean, like, it's good to look through. It's good to feel that way sometimes, you know? And it's okay to feel bad sometimes, and we're gonna come at you that way too. Right now, this is our first episode, so we're like very excited and upbeat. Yeah. But there'll be tough discussions that we have for sure. That we have them all the time with each other. Yeah. So we're gonna be real. That's what this is about, and we're really excited, honestly, to build this community. I guess you could call it a virtual community, but
and we really mean it when we say that this is not us just talking at you guys. Like, we hope to build a group that is engaging and where there's dialogue and different opinions. In fact, I can't wait to hear different experiences and opinions that are unique to what we've experienced. I think that will help the conversation be really real, and that is what we hope for. We invite you.
I love hearing the stories, and I hope people enjoy hearing our story, and that we can continue to share them. So I think with that being said, I think we can wrap up our first episode, but make sure to follow us. We have an Instagram currently, The Spectrum That Connects Us, and we're going to be working on a website and all those jazzy things. But we're looking forward to it all, and we're going to try to get a podcast out a couple times a month, so definitely keep an ear out, and give it a go.
Reach out. Please reach out. I mean, if there's anything on your mind, topics that you want us to explore for and with you, local businesses that you'd like to put a spotlight on, I mean, it could really be anything. It's sort of an open blank slate, and we invite you to hang out with us.
Okay, until next time.
Thank you.
The Spectrum That Connects
Us.
Fallon.
Meet you. Heather. Bye.
It's been real.